Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Stars sports podcast. I'm Blair Kirchhoff, and our Chiefs discussion with columnist Vahe Gregorian involves this question. Could this Chiefs team be better than last year's group that won the Super Bowl? We ask because the offense, defense, and special teams all rank high among NFL teams. It's added up to the Chiefs having the best record in the AFC and one that matches the Philadelphia Eagles for the NFL's top record. Vahe and I also look back on last week's victory over the Los Angeles Chargers and look ahead to Sunday's game at the Denver Broncos. Okay, let's get started. In many ways, the best of SportsBeat KC because we're here exclusively with Vahe Gregorian.
I was wondering how you were going to set that up.
Yeah, I didn't know how else to get into it, so
Well, we can only hope that Jesse Newell and Sam McDowell hear this later.
And we'll miss them today, but they'll be back with us soon. They are on assignment, and Jesse and Sam will be back. As I said, they'll be back with us. So, Chiefs coming off the 31-17 victory over the Los Angeles Chargers, played the Denver Broncos next in the Mile High City. Second meeting in 3 games between the Chiefs and the Broncos. That's kind of interesting, but let's look back a little bit on the game Sunday. It's a 14-point victory, a 2-touchdown margin in a series that has been produced really nothing but close games as long as Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert have been going back and forth at each other. And yet I thought this one felt close to me. It felt closer than the final score. It was a one-score game into the fourth quarter with the Chiefs leading 24-17, and then they get the final touchdown. It felt closer than a 2-score game to me.
It did. I mean, I don't know if you agree with this, but I felt like it had basically the exact same vibe as all these other games. You know, I think it's now, I can't remember, 8 of the last 11 games in the series have been by 7 of the previous 10. This felt like a game that was 7 points or fewer. And really the hinge was one drive, right? I mean, other than that, I think almost the average score of this series lately has been 24-17 Chiefs. It would have been that. It's very close to that. And meanwhile, though, actually they did win by 2 touchdowns. And I don't think it didn't feel like jeopardy late in the game because they secured that little buffer zone. And in some ways, I think if you adjust for quality of the opponent, you could make a fine case that this was their most complete game of the season, reflecting maybe one of the most complete teams we've seen.
Yeah, look, you play all 60 minutes, so the Chiefs did end the game with the ball in their possession and win by 2 touchdowns. But maybe I'm being too influenced by the couple of plays that I saw from the Chargers in the second quarter when they score on a 49-yard touchdown run, and they complete a drive for another touchdown that included a 60-yard completion, the types of plays we haven't seen against the Chiefs this year. And the bottom line, the Chiefs ended up playing a very solid defensive game. They said these two plays that worked against them probably accounted for about half of the Chargers' total yards in the game.
Yeah, it probably did. And, you might know this even as you're citing those numbers. I don't know this, and I don't remember reading it. Were those the 2 longest plays from scrimmage against the Chiefs this year?
Yes, they had to be because I looked that up after the 49-yard touchdown run.
Oh, that's right. We were looking at the same chart.
And it was the longest.
Yeah.
And then there's a 60-yard completion.
Yeah.
That Brian Cook actually makes this another tackle in the open field to bring the runner down. Chargers ended up scoring, but they had to work a little harder for that score.
But it is interesting. I think that it's hard to forget that we saw a couple of those really explosive plays. On the other hand, the signature of the game is what the defense did in the second half. And here we are minutes into this without even mentioning the, meager 424 yards Patrick Mahomes threw for, and the 179 yards by Travis Kelce, including, I think it was 143 in the first half. I'm digressing from the defense here, but isn't the broader takeaway what they did in the second half than just that they got bit a couple times?
Yes. Here are the Chargers had 5 second half possessions. They ended in interception, punt, 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 interception. So that's pretty stout on the part of the Chiefs defense. The first possession that ended in the tipped interception, right? Amenahue got his hands on the ball, and L'Jarius Sneed ended up with the pick. That was an 11-play drive. The Chargers had gotten into the red zone, and what was to me significant about that, and I actually asked Andy Reid about it after the game, was the Chiefs followed a giveaway with a takeaway.
Yeah,
and I just felt that if the Chargers had scored there, it was they were down 7. It was 24-17 at halftime.
Yeah.
If the Chargers had scored there to tie it up, it is game on. And Chargers know how to play the Chiefs close. They don't always win. They've won 2 of the last 6, but they know how to keep these games close. And I thought, here's another shot. It's another Chargers-Chiefs game that's going to come down to a final possession. But that interception just, started the run of stops for the defense in the second half.
Yeah, and think about this. This happens every play. It goes slightly differently, right? Changes the next dynamic, so you don't know what comes next. But I feel like if they score that TD, then I think we're heading to overtime. I mean, it doesn't preclude that the Chiefs would have scored another touchdown and all that, but I just think it would have changed the dynamics of the game. And so, I mean, look, I guess I haven't reset the numbers since the 49ers game last night, but the Chiefs maybe lead the NFL in points allowed. And
fewest points allowed. And even if they don't, the Chiefs defense does, if you subtract the 9 points that the offense gave up. And that, I mean, in a way, it's just a quirky midseason stat to say, that's leading the nation, leading the league in points allowed, fewest points allowed. But man, think about that. Second still. Chiefs are second in points allowed, and they are 7th in yards allowed, average yards per game allowed. They are second in yards per game as an offense and 6th in points. So that so basically top 6, 7 in offense and defense.
Yeah. And
their special teams have been pretty good this year. In fact, I read a tweet after the game, or maybe it was on Monday, that in someone's measure, they had the 6th or 7th best collective special teams this year. So if your offense, your defense, and your special teams are in the top 7 in the NFL, well, you might have a pretty good team.
Yeah, you might. And the twist on this is that I think there's been a perception that the offense is kind of gunked up and just not doing what it does. And I do think because of the fake, the couple fakes that were run successfully against the Chiefs special teams and the one that they did not succeed on, I think there's a little bit of a perception that special teams has not been that effective. So that's pretty tough. And of course, what is in this mix that I'm not directly saying is that the defense hasn't been this good this early. Maybe in any season certainly in any season under Steve Spagnuolo, and with its well-earned reputation for getting better as the season goes along, and not just it gets better, but clearly because of a better understanding of systems and how they play together, I think it's reasonable to be optimistic that they're going to be this good or better. Now, the problem is they're going to be playing some better teams.
Right.
And, however good they are, once they get past this Denver game, then they got certainly 2 of the best teams in the NFL back-to-back with the Miami Dolphins in Germany and then the Philadelphia Eagles coming here. So it'll be a different test of what these numbers mean.
Agree. Let's go back before I forget. Special teams. I think one of the reasons it's ranked so high, and you're right, they've been burned twice on fake punts, and then didn't convert on a fake field goal or a field goal that turned into a scramble drill, whatever you want to call it. Harrison Butker's 34 for 34 on field goals and PATs, including a 60-yarder and a couple of 50-yarders in that Denver game 2 weeks ago. Tommy Townsend's having a good season, very good season at punting, and McCole Hardman's 50-yard punt return was a big play in the game.
All these things are, and look, the Butker thing really does stand out. Maybe it's an unfair point of contrast. But this time last year, he was still kind of trying to get it together. And I don't think anybody understood how badly he was hurt, even when he came back last year, how it affected his mechanics. And seemingly he's pretty healthy now. And I mean, he's kind of turned into a machine. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. Remember, he had some trouble with point afters for a little while and things like that. And it's been a Terminator. And that's, I get that's what you have to be in the NFL, but you don't know you're going to get that.
Yeah, look, it's one of the many things that those of us who follow the Chiefs just kind of take for granted with them, right?
Yeah.
That Butker's always going to make his kicks, and that's where we've gotten to. And listen, this is one of the chapters in the book of being a Super Bowl champion, right? You've got one of the best kickers in the NFL.
Yeah, Super Bowl champion, and you mean the same thing, I think, but I'll just add the point that, I mean, and perennial contender, right? And it is funny, not too much more fun with numbers, but so if you took off those 9 points, I do think it puts the Chiefs defense as the number one defense in the NFL in terms of points allowed, I think. Is it still the 49ers are just ahead of them?
Let me have to check.
But then if you added, let's just say for argument's sake, 14 that they left on the board against the Jets and against the Bears. No, against
Jaguars. Yeah, Jaguars.
Those numbers would look pretty close offensively to the average they've had over the Mahomes years, even though there's been a perception of, offense being off kilter. So I guess I feel a little bit like those guys in the Saturday Night Live skit about the Bears. Like, any question you ask, the Bears, it's going to be them.
Right.
But it's hard to not feel pretty encouraged, for lack of a better term, about where the Chiefs are going.
No, and you mentioned it though. The schedule does grow some fangs, and we'll can't wait for those games. They're going to be a lot of fun. But let's go back to the defense. Because they did have there was a significant injury on the defensive side with Nick Bolton being out. What do we make of that? And a dislocated wrist that will probably keep him out for up to 2 months. So if he returns in the regular season, it would be late December, maybe the Christmas Day game against the Raiders. He has been terrific when he's played. Nick Bolton is just a stellar NFL linebacker. But the Chiefs build in some depth in the offseason, so maybe that softens the blow a little bit.
Yeah, I do think it softens the blow a little bit with Drew Tranquill being a pretty stout backup who's been playing even alongside some too. And you made a point earlier today at another speaking engagement we had, and it was a good point that did Nick Bolton miss 3 full games before? So they didn't miss a beat. What I find a little more worrisome with this period of time is it's this period of time. It's a longer period. You may be challenged with your depth in other ways. I think as sound and again really stout as Drew Tranquill is, I think he's probably a little less dynamic than Nick Bolton. And I wonder if that catches up with you a little bit more against the Dolphins and Eagles.
Right. I'd still throw the Bills and Bengals in there too.
I would too, and that's in this window. To your point,
well, Bengals maybe just outside. Maybe he'll be back. Bengals come after the Raiders on I think on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve. Drew Tranquill really played well as with the green dot. As the middle linebacker who calls basically communicates with coaches, so calls defensive signals in the 3 games that he started and that'll be asked of him again. The Chiefs had, with healthy players, pretty decent depth at that position. Now they're looking at Jack Cochran as the 4th linebacker with Leo Chenal and Willie Gay and Drew Tranquill. That affects the depth. I don't think the Chiefs want to have Cochran out there for. He's a terrific special teams player, 4-team guy, but. I don't know. Maybe we'll get to ask Steve Spagnuolo this week how Bolton being out affects the defense.
Yeah, and I think he will certainly acknowledge that it does. He will probably speak to the depth, but I think he'll also, without giving us the strategy, indicate that they're going to have to, just be thoughtful about how they might mix and match other looks. And what we don't know right now is whether, there's being an appeal made either by or to Brett Veach, to put up the bat signal and get some other help. I don't know what that other help would look like at this time of year.
Yeah, I don't know either. Teams are making deals.
It's hard to make some deals. Yeah.
Yep. Titans just picked up who was
Eagles.
it? Eagles picked up a safety, from good safety from the Titans. Things are, it's not. The Chiefs have been known to make the midseason deal.
Yeah.
They brought in players. Melvin Ingram was, was one of those types of guys.
Terrell Suggs.
I can remember a few years earlier.
Revis.
Remember, and Mike Pennell. Remember Mike Pennell, the defensive lineman. Helped the Chiefs down the stretch when maybe in their Super Bowl year. I can't exactly remember. So
it might have been.
It's been known to happen.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I wouldn't be surprised. It's interesting. We haven't really had this talk with anybody lately with the Chiefs. At least I haven't. But I do wonder, if one of the things in the advent of this this Chiefs sort of power era, how much less willing they find partners. It's just an interesting thought. It's a side thought, but and obviously you're limited more anyway to teams that are probably see themselves out of the running. But who wants to help the Chiefs exactly?
Well, not only not help the Chiefs, but you could do what the Denver Broncos did last week, and that is when the Chiefs cut Keandre Coburn, Broncos picked him up. And you know why the Broncos pick them up? Because they're playing the Chiefs.
2 out of 3.
Yes. They'll get rid of Coburn as soon as the game's over, if not sooner. So that's just how it works in the cutthroat NFL.
Yeah.
Another topic that you and I discussed earlier today at in a conversation was I thought we had a little back and forth about Chiefs position groups and Bolton's injury notwithstanding. How do the position groups measure up this year versus last year with the Super Bowl champion? That is, where are the Chiefs better? Where are they worse by position? Not individual players, but by position group. So you're thinking, quarterback, running backs, wide receivers, offensive line, and then the 3 levels on the defense. My contention is they are as good, if not better, at all but one of those groups. And the one that I say is not as good as last year's wide receiver, but I don't think it's a distant second to last year. What do you think by position group is?
I think that's how I see it too, and I also agree that I don't think it's as distant as people think. I just think. I saw Patrick Mahomes, longtime trainer, Bobby Stroop, had a tweet the other day about, or an X the other day, whatever we call it now, about the receiver group, and he used the term slow cooked to perfection. And I guess that's another way you could be saying, well, it ain't happening yet. But
right.
I actually see the rationale for what he said. And I think, look, there's been some injuries. Of course, every team deals with that. But also there's been some young guys, and it is, in the end, a brand new, I keep using this word dynamic, but it's a brand new dynamic because of the amount of people that are still learning it, the way they all have to work with each other. Every package is its own dynamic, right? And I think we've been seeing it be done by committee and maybe in ways that we're not used to. Right. I mean, by this time last year, I'm trying to remember. I don't think we started seeing Juju Smith-Schuster have bigger numbers till second half of the season.
Right.
And in fact, I think there were times early in the season it was kind of like, but I'm not really sure how he's helping very much. I mean, he had moments, obviously. So if you're able to step back and look at it as kind of a whole, like even the way MVS was describing what he does the other day, right? I mean, he's certainly getting some attention even when he's not getting a lot of catches, no doubt about that. Rashee Rice is obviously, I think, coming into his own. Sky Moore, maybe they're starting to find a little bit of the right niche for him. I thought Justin Watson was really doing well.
Kadarius Toney.
Let's face it, I don't know if he's a gadget guy, but I don't think he's ever going to be. He's not going to have numbers. I don't think, unless they decide to just flood him a couple times. He's not going to have numbers that tell you he's the top receiver ever, right? I mean, partly because you worry about his health, but maybe it's just the nature of his game. But we know he is spectacularly talented, and I might be wrong about this, Blair, but I don't think he's dropped the ball since that wretched first game. And I'm a little surprised they haven't found a little more room for him. And then, of course, I'm leaving out the real twist to the situation, which is McCall Hardman. And I do think McCall Hardman can be the guy that lets them get everything else in order too, and that he is a fit for. We didn't see him do a jet sweep, did we? But
no. I thought my money would have been on jet sweep as the first touch of the ball for him in the game, but it wasn't. But
look, and he's a show in himself. I mean, it really interesting to ponder how much his reincarnation here can make him a better fit, right? We certainly remembered his previous time as lots of flashes and a number of Patrick Mahomes head-shaking moments where he's, trying to gesture to where he should have been when he threw the ball, things like that. But look, he came through with a couple really big plays here, that really big. And the fact that those happened after there was some exasperation from observers on high, I think tells you that you got to be a little patient about it. And am I right? He didn't even get back in the building till Wednesday or Thursday last week.
Correct. He maybe 2 days of practice, or maybe 1 day of practice, and then a walkthrough. Yeah. So no, I'm not going to say he picked up where he left off, but he didn't look out of place at all.
Right.
Neither did Charles Omenihu, right?
Boy, no kidding.
What a terrific debut for him.
Yeah.
But before we get, there's a bunch of branches that I want to pursue here, but we probably should mention while we're talking about wide receivers, we don't know if Justin Ross is going to be with the team going forward. He is in trouble with the law and appeared in court via Zoom on Tuesday and scheduled to be released on bond, and his next court appearance will be December 4th, according to R. Sam McDowell, who was covering the hearing. So, listen, he I think he's had 3 receptions. He had the really nice one along the sideline. I can't remember who.
Minnesota, I think.
Maybe sort of back shoulder throw by Mahomes.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, they just haven't been able to integrate him into the offense in a way that maybe we thought after seeing him in training camp.
Yeah, they don't seem to be able to go downfield to him, middle of the field, downfield. I don't know what his speed is. I don't know if it's some issue with the route tree or whatever you want to call it. But it seems he's a kind of limited package player. But your broader point is the more important one. I think we're still waiting to learn a bit about both his status and the nature of what he's done. So, he's been on the back burner anyway. And if we're just talking from a purely, analytical point about how he fits with this, it seems more murky.
Right. So you've said, I've heard you say it and talk about it and probably have written it, that it takes the Steve Spagnuolo defense a little time to warm up to a season, and usually by the second half, the Chiefs defense is, playing better than it did in the first half. I think there's something different about this year, and my initial thought is the Chiefs defense was so young a year ago. 7 of the 10 draft picks were defensive players. They all got to play, right? The Trent McDuffies, the Brian Cooks, the George Karlaftis's, Williams Watson, and all those guys, they got to play. Well, now they're all a year older. And you add a veteran like Charles Omenihu, you add a veteran like Mike Edwards. You bring, Justin Reed is a year further along in the Chiefs program. All of a sudden, you've got some experience, some knowledge, and talent on this defense.
Yeah, and I think you hit every one of the important points here. I mean, first of all, they were so young last year. turned out to get pretty good by the end. But just think about not just the rookies, but even Justin Reed being young in the defense. I would suggest, I don't know that I have the numbers to bear this out, but just the eye test, Justin Reed is a much improved player this year. Part of that, it's a little bit of a cliche, but I think it's safe to say he can play faster now because he gets it in a different way. And, he's had, a couple interceptions the last couple of weeks now. One off the tip ball by Amenahue. Oh, no, it was a Willie Gay tip.
Yeah, it was in the previous game. Minnesota, or I can't.
Denver.
I think he's just got the one interception.
Yeah, that's right. Because initially we thought it was him instead of Snead.
Right.
But I guess the point is that they've got continuity that contributes to, whatever you want to call it, chemistry, cohesion. And I want to believe that probably every NFL defensive coordinator has a complicated system, right? But we certainly, I think, can say with conviction that Steve Spagnuolo's is. And also that Steve Spagnuolo wants to do more and more things. I think that's kind of an interesting point here, too. It's like last year he probably didn't try to do as many things with so many people learning things. This year I think we've seen some more exotic looks here and there, and probably things that escape the naked eye that we wouldn't recognize, or I wouldn't recognize, that are more sophisticated. So all of that, players coming into their own a little bit, like unfortunately Bolton's hurt, but Bolton, Willie Gay. Look, the defensive line sustained the absence of Chris Jones for the holdout, and then I think was going to be maybe questionable defensive line even with Chris Jones back, and it's not been at all.
No.
And now with Amenahue.
Yep. And the name we haven't mentioned who's having a really nice season is Mike Dana.
Absolutely,
the other
I
defensive
agree.
end. So one thing I noticed, in the Chargers game, and I think we'll see it when the Chiefs play good passing offenses more and more, is the forward defensive end front.
Yes.
With Jones.
NASCAR, is that what they're calling it?
That's what they used to, right? The old Giants NASCAR, when Steve Spagnuolo was the Giants defensive coordinator, with Karlaftis and Dana, Amenahue and Jones. That, I think, is pretty darn effective and has a chance to be a real strength for this Chiefs defense going forward.
Well, pardon me, because I'm trying to look up this point that you got into. I crunched these numbers a week or two ago about this, but I think 2 seasons ago, was that the season where they gave up a lot of 30-point games early? I mean, they'd given up more than double this amount of points to this stretch of the season 2 seasons ago. And last year, quite a few more. And I got distracted by that, and I don't know how else to add to the point you're making. But shrewd signings, good drafts. I mean, especially last year's.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I like what they're able to do.
Yeah. Look. So now they've got a little bit of a tricky, game on Sunday. It's a game they should win because they haven't lost to the Broncos since 2015. I think it's up to 16, the winning streak in the series, which is just ridiculous. How about this little piece of numbers crunching? So in the 1960s, when the Broncos and the Texans/Chiefs were part of the AFL, the Chiefs won 19 of the 20 matchups. 10 years of the AFL, they played each other twice each time. So the Chiefs were 19-1, had an 18-game difference in the series against the Broncos. Right now, the series stands 72-54 Chiefs. So an 18-game difference, which means since 1970, the teams have split all their games. But it's taken a 16-game winning streak by the Chiefs to get to 500 against the Broncos in the NFL, the merger era since 1970. Which says to me that's how frustrating it has been historically for Chiefs fans, pre-Andy Reid, I should say, not Mahomes, pre-Andy Reid, with the Denver Broncos. Yeah. So I know longtime Chiefs fans that were just frustrated tremendously by John Elway, by the early years of Peyton Manning, just anybody the Denver Broncos threw at him,
but especially Elway and Payton, right? I mean,
are really enjoying this streak.
Well, I remember, I got here in 2013, and same season as Andy Reid got here, and he made some points about playing needing to win in the division, but each time they played the Broncos, something disastrous seemed to happen. I did Jamal Charles fumbled,
yep.
And
that was the last one they lost, by the way.
Was that right?
Chiefs. That was the game.
And longtime listeners will recognize the fact that was September 2015, and among the things that have happened that show us the distance between now and then was that the Royals were about to win a World Series, and so it's just quite a long time. But is that series not maybe the most indicative thing of the change in fortunes, right? And how Chiefs fans view themselves, like they've got their Elway,
Right.
they've got their, this is the Chiefs, and look, maybe he'll supersede some of their numbers by the time this is all over.
Yep, perhaps.
Peyton Manning's. I mean, and so, but I think the reason you're bringing this up is, I don't know how you define a so-called trap game. It's a little bit of a, odd term, but whatever it is, I think this is it, right?
Yes.
You're coming off, you just beat these guys again.
Right. Beat these guys, but you're coming off of probably the most complete victory of the season.
Right.
Feel good about it. And on the other side of Denver, you've got the trip to Germany and the Miami Dolphins, a game that everybody's anticipating. And in between, you've got the Dolphins, who you don't lose to, who you pushed around in the 2 weeks earlier. And however, Broncos coming off a victory. They are playing better defense. It's not the defense that gave up 70 to Miami earlier this year. So a little bit of a interesting.
I think I think it actually, and it's hard to get into all these head games, right? But I think it actually is good for the Chiefs that the Broncos won, because I think no matter what, it helps get the attention again a little way. I also think if they're not as intense about this game as they should be, it won't be because the coaching staff wasn't trying to shake them up and say, look, you got to show up. I do think, we've talked to these guys about these topics a few times, but I do think there's something to this dominance of the AFC West that is the Chiefs get, that it's got to bring out, that it's another depth of competition than a regular game. They get it. And they also get that most of these games actually do come down to a play or two. Even though they always win,
right.
It seems to always be a play or two. And so, Patrick Mahomes has never lost to the Broncos.
He's never lost an AFC West game on the road.
And never lost an AFC West game on the road. And he's now, 29-3 against the AFC West in games he started.
It's unbelievable.
It's uncanny. I'm pretty sure he'll have a burn to, continue improving that record. And I think he has a way of, most quarterbacks do, right? But the best are ones that connect with their team. And, we know this from observations of Patrick anyway, but the quarterback series really brought this home, how sort of he infuses himself into the team in a way that most, like Kirk Cousins is fine and Marcus Mariota was, less than fine in that documentary, but these guys, Patrick, they respond to Patrick. And for all of Patrick's other attributes, the fire inside is pretty front and center.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way in the world the Chiefs won't be ready to play on Sunday. I can't remember ever saying that about an Andy Reid coach team, and I certainly don't believe we've ever said that. Even in hindsight, even after a Chiefs loss, I don't think we've ever thought, well, they just weren't ready.
The one time, was it that Green Bay game, or was it that Pittsburgh game?
Well, they got crushed in both of them, but that wasn't Patrick Mahomes.
It was pre-Mahomes, no doubt. But I was just thinking in the Andy Reid era, the very few, those two were the ones where, he was just kind of ashen afterwards, and I think it reflected not being ready for whatever reason.
Yeah, I do. I remember both of those games.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, but I don't. If the Chiefs lose this game, they will have committed 4 turnovers. They will have seriously lost turnover battle. Russell Wilson will have had the game of his Broncos life. The Broncos will have limited the Chiefs to like 8 possessions in the game. All the things that opponents try to do to the Chiefs, but usually aren't good enough to accomplish. That's what I think. That's the only way the Chiefs lose.
What I look forward to in this game, really, Ashley, is the continued evolution of how they weave in the receivers and what they emphasize. I really do. I really look forward to that. I think we'll get a little more information about how they view McCole Hardman, which may be different than how we view it. I think Rice really is not just going to be good, that he is good. Maybe there's a little more spark in the MVS game now. I think Sky Moore got some traction the other day.
He did. I think so. Tony too.
Tony too. I think it was just one catch to Tony, but he should have had a touchdown. Patrick forced the ball in the middle to Kelsey when he was wide open, and I think that's kind of the beauty of this. I think they could kind of unleash any different form of things anytime. And, we've never really, and I don't think Andy Reid would give it away, but to me, a fascinating thing about this whole thing, the whole nature of how they construct the season is how much, I'm not saying they're holding back things, but how much they make the offense evolve and to blossom theoretically in the playoffs. In other words, that this is in stages and chapters to them as they assemble this. And I'm not really sure exactly what I'm even trying to express, but I think that they understand it's a work in progress to build what they're going to be, and that only really happens through the games. I don't know. When Andy's career is done, if we sit down and talk with him, I'd be interested to know if he could speak to how you construct a season plan.
Build toward the end. Build with a Super Bowl in mind.
Yeah.
Listen, he will, and all coaches and all the good ones will tell you it's week to week. They don't even
gotta win this week.
Don't even know who they're playing on the other side and all that cliche stuff. But I got to admit, I got to think that when it comes to the way players are utilized and the types of plays that are called, that there is a build. When you have a good team, when you have a transcendent player like Patrick Mahomes, maybe a team like the Chiefs with a coach like Andy Reid can think that way. That think long term within a season. Yeah, and you're right. That would be a fun conversation. Yeah. To have in an honest moment with Andy Reid. Yeah, maybe, if we get in his office after the Super Bowl, while they're celebrating in the locker room, one of these years we'll get in there. Don't you, this is a side point, but don't you feel like if you had to guess, they're going to win at least 2 more Super Bowls in the Mahomes era? At least. And isn't that something to say? Well. But it's absolutely how I feel. I feel and it too. And at least is what I feel. Well, I think about it almost when I look back at what the Patriots did. They won 3 and 4 years and then didn't win another one for almost a decade. Yeah. And then they won 3 and 5 years. Yeah. And they changed over. Tom Brady was the constant throughout all, and Belichick, but everything else changed for him. I think we're nearing the end of the Mahomes 1 era. And maybe that's Chris Jones leaving and Travis Kelce aging, and where maybe there's 1 or 2 more Super Bowls to be had here, but then there's a different cast, and maybe this will be different. Maybe there's no drop off or no non Super Bowl contending years. Even when the Patriots didn't win a Super Bowl, they went to a couple of them, just didn't win them. Yeah. The both Giants losses were within that. So, but anyway, that's how I look at it. That maybe. The stars that Mahomes has played with and who have helped won the Chiefs win Super Bowls may be nearing the end of their time as Chiefs, and it'll be up to the Brett Veach, especially, to identify the next group. Well, look, and as you speak to this, I mean, here's the thing, and here's why the receiver situation hasn't necessarily concerned. Why you can feel like they can afford to let that kind of evolve and grow is because of Travis Kelce. And really, other than Patrick, he's, to me, clearly the most irreplaceable player. And
if you even took them off of this team, what would their record be?
Well,
it wouldn't be this.
0-1.
And we know it's 0-1
this year.
And it wouldn't be this. And to your point, what can you reasonably expect Travis Kelce's next few years to be like? I got to figure he's got at least 2 more years as the Travis Kelce we know, but maybe it's really only 1 more full year as the Travis Kelce we know.
He's had an amazing 3-game stretch here.
He has. I mean, the joke is, he's gotten better with age. October 5th was his birthday. I like Andy Reid said something like, we can't all say we're getting better with age, as he turned to Adam Teicher, and Adam gave it back to Andy and said, speak for yourself. I can't remember how we phrased it exactly, but that was playful, Andy, after that game. But anyway, I think that really feeds into your theory. I mean, that phase 1 is probably about another 3-year window total. And look, it doesn't mean that there's an interlude.
Right.
Don't know. But as we know it.
Yeah, it'll be with a different, largely different cast of characters.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, Vahe. Great conversation. I'll see you in Denver.
Yeah. Okay, Blair.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to Monty Davis for producing this episode, and to our SportsBeat KC staff of Randy Mason, Todd Feedback, Jeff Rosen, and Scott Chasen. Tip of the cap to Vahe Gregorian for sharing his insights. The Star produces the nation's best digital sports page. It's called Morning Sports Edition, and it includes all of our Chiefs coverage, the Royals, colleges, Sporting KC, the KC Current, and more. Even more space is devoted to sports from around the nation and the globe. Today's edition was more than 40 pages. Check it out at liveedition.kansascity.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in and around Kansas City.